morning. As I mentioned last week and the weeks before, Jesus is on a journey toward Jerusalem. Jesus knows what's going to happen when he arrives in Jerusalem. And so everything that's happening in Luke is in a setting that relates to Jesus and that journey in which he fixed his face on his goal. Luke was written probably 40 years or so, most scholars believe, after the actual presence with Jesus. So what Luke is able to do is called causal. He is responding to a cause that is happening in the community that is around him. When we read today's reading, we're going to read a kind of a tough reading. It's a kind of a hard reading, and it's easy to misinterpret that reading. But Luke is sharing that because he wants that community to know what Jesus faced. He wants us to know. That was the context in which it actually happened, and Jesus is on that journey. Then we have the context in which Luke is writing this gospel message, and now we have the context of 2016, and we're blessed to be able to share that. It is a living gospel, and it goes on. It begins at the 49th verse of the 12th chapter. I came to bring fire to the earth, and how I wish it was already kindled. I have a baptism with which to be baptized, and what stress I am under until it is completed. Do you think that I have come to bring peace to the earth? No, I tell you, but rather division. From now on, 5 in one whole household will be divided, 3 against 2, and 2 against 3, and they will be divided. Father against son, son against father, mother against daughter, daughter against mother, mother-in-law against her daughter-in-law, and her daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. He also said to the crowds, when you see a cloud rising in the west, you immediately say, it's going to rain. And so it happens. And when you see the south wind blowing, you say, there will be a scorching heat. And it happens. You hypocrites. You know how to interpret the appearance of the earth and the sky. But why do you not know how to interpret the present time? This is the gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ. This is a tough one. This is not an easy reading, but it is an imperative that we understand where Jesus is at this moment in time and what he's calling us to do in our moment in time. Jesus is not coming to divide this community. He is recognizing the common, often too common, issues with humanity in which we divide ourselves. We go back to Cain and Abel, and what do we have? We have a divided family. Over what? Jealousy? We have murder over jealousy. We have a divided family, and Jesus knows that it's going to happen. I mentioned to you before that Psychology 101 is in groups and out groups. When you belong to my group, you got what it takes. But if you're not part of my group, you're a non-entity. You don't exist. And we have these kind of divisions all the way through. I talked about the theological math, where God adds, God multiplies, God creates, and Satan, the enemy, subtracts. And Christians, they divide. Right? We have more denominations than you could count on your hands. Left hand, right foot, and all your neighbors in the number of denominations just in the Christian faith alone. I mean, drive through Muskegon Heights and see how many bishops there are in the churches. I'm not trying to make fun of that. I'm trying to say that division is a natural course of the human affairs, and it's part of our original sin. First words out of a baby's mouth besides Dada or Mama are mine. Mine. I want it. And sharing is a learned art. It isn't something that automatically happens. That teddy bear or that fluffy that I'm talking about is something you want to put under your arm and not let anybody else have it. That's the nature of what we as human beings are. So, Pastor, what does it mean? It means that we can't do it by ourselves. We cannot save ourselves because it's our nature to be what we are, and that is divisive. I've seen it in most churches I've ever participated in. I remember when I told my mother I was going to become a Lutheran pastor. Wow! You talk about earth-shattering, and not in a good way. What you need to know about Mom is that she's a third-order Carmelite nun when my father died. And so I was doing what I felt that I was called to do, and my mother thought that was anathema. Ooh, that was bad. Now, it took her a long time, A, before she talked to me, B, before she became proud of me, and before she died, she always introduced me as, this is my pastor's son. So she changed in doing that, but even in that kind of a setting, it shows how divisive we can be. If we don't think and act or move or dress in a certain way, then we're not part of the in-group. As I said many times before, church means the body of Christ. And if that's true, it's not where we are this Sunday morning, it's who we are in relationship to all other churches. You want to come here and worship? You are welcome. And if you don't feel the welcome, you are standing aside because the welcome is here. We love our church. We love our church. I feel like Ed Sullivan. Some of you don't know who Ed Sullivan is. But I can assure you, he introduced the Beatles. It's who we are. It's how we can love. How we look to Jesus for that example. He's going to die for us. And why is he going to die for us? Because we cannot do it ourselves. We have a part of the nature that, yes, God created us. And yes, he created Mariana, perfectly Mariana. But Mariana knows that she's not perfect. I know that I'm not perfect. We have to struggle with our humanity in moving towards God. We should have an excitement about a flower garden with so many combinations. Roses, black-eyed Susans, peonies, Shasta daisies, snapdragons. They're all beautiful in and of themselves. And each of us like a flowering garden that has so many varieties. There's no duplications here. You are created unique. You are created special. That's the kind of thing that God knows that we are. And so the hard part is saying, God, I don't understand it. I can't grasp it. It's bigger than I am. It's bigger than my thoughts. And you go, yeah, I know that. Because it is. What we're called to do is to love. What we're called to do is to welcome. What we're called to do is put ourselves aside at times and reach out to the unlovable, to reach out to the marginalized, to reach out to the fact that Wes was talking about this morning, that all lives matter. All lives matter. We think that they're red and yellow, black and white, and precious in His sight. We don't know what God has in this infinite creation. All we know is that He has an infinite love for us. Maybe there are other colors, who knows? I've never seen an alien. Anybody here ever seen an alien? I've seen a couple that looked like aliens. But you know what? Those funny haircuts and that color and those rings and those... I don't know. All I know is that God loves them. That's what I know. And that I would greet them the same as I would greet anybody else. But what I wouldn't like to do every day, day after day after day, is walk up to a mirror and only see me. No. It is the other that we find the blessing. It is the other that we are incorporated into the massive, wonderful, beautiful creation of God. Remember, I told you, you are carved on the palm of His hand, etched, tattooed. He knows you. Every time we reject another human being, for whatever reason, we are rejecting the creation of God. Didn't ask you to love Him. God did. He said, love your enemies. Do good to them. Our job is to reach out to the marginalized. I'm thinking about Mike Rogers last week in that beautiful performance in that piano solo of A Mighty Fortress. Or Mike Script. What did I say? Rogers. She knows I'm not perfect. Mike Scripps, it was powerful. But what was powerful was watching that man open his heart on that keyboard. That was magic. That was inspirational. I was thinking of a song for Mike, and the name Rich Mullins came to my mind. Anybody familiar with Rich Mullins? We sing his camp songs all the time. He died in a tragic automobile accident. One of the things that he used to do is he used to sit at that keyboard, and then he would play a few notes, and then he would talk to the congregation. He was a wonderful preacher. His music was phenomenal, and you would recognize many of the pieces that he's done. But the reason I was thinking about him is that he came from a family of neglect. He came out of a father who was very, very difficult and criticized his playing. He thought he should only be doing working, yet he became a gift to all of us in his song and his hymns. He came from a pit of despair to a place on which he could glorify God. And he sat at the piano and he looked out at the crowd and the YouTube I was watching, and he said, you know, we're going to be singing some songs here. And he says, most of you don't sing too good. I recognize that. You know, I recognize that. But what I recognize most of all is the fact that this is the only voice that I have. You have a beautiful voice. You are gifted wonderfully. I stand this close to Patricia every time she sings because I sing better. Every time Heidi sings, I want to get close because I sing better. That's the gift that we have. And the other helps us to reach that pinnacle of a beautiful note. And that note is added to the celestial song That is the people of God saying yes to God. We are that people. And we welcome others, whatever the color, whatever the height, the short, the age, the sex. We don't care. Because they are chosen people of God like we are. And we're thankful for them. May I hear an amen.